Hello everyone and welcome to Retail Archaeology. Today we'll be taking a look at OfficeMax and also discussing Office Depot, as OfficeMax is now currently a subsidiary of Office Depot. I also want to talk a little bit about the office supply store sector in retail in general because I think things are really starting to look very bleak for it. First, we should talk a little bit about the history of OfficeMax. It was founded in 1988 in Cleveland, Ohio. OfficeMax grew to be quite large through acquisition. They just went on a buying spree during the early 90s of smaller office supply companies. And it's also interesting to note that in 1991, Kmart was actually a 92% stakeholder of OfficeMax. So OfficeMax were basically Kmart's office supply stores. In 1995, Kmart sold off 51% of their OfficeMax shares and it was spun off into its own publicly traded corporation. In 2003, OfficeMax was bought for $1.3 billion by Boise Cascade Office Products Corporation. That's quite a bit of money. And then lastly, in 2013, OfficeMax was purchased by and became a subsidiary of Office Depot. And that brings us to today, to this very empty and stained up OfficeMax in Mesa, Arizona. Now what we're looking at here is the clearance section, and I always love looking at clearance sections in stores like this because a lot of times there's products that have been just sitting for a very long time, so it can kind of like be going through a time capsule. Looks like they've got some K-cups over here on clearance, and those prices I don't feel like are even very good for clearance. This clearance section is looking pretty barren, much like how the store is looking barren of customers, but I did have a good chuckle at this. This is an old nylon ribbon cartridge for a dot matrix printer, and if I pulled this one off the front and hold it next to the one behind it, you can see how faded the one that was in the very front was. It's obviously been here a very, very long time. If we take a look here on the back, it looks like we've got a date of 2005. I know there are still uses for dot matrix printers for like carbon copy forms and stuff, but I think most people are ordering that kind of stuff from Amazon. Now this always kind of surprised me about office supply stores too, is, you know, a lot of people have like candy and stuff at their desk. They've got that stuff here for your office, but it is, again, very expensive. You can get this stuff much cheaper at Target or, you know, ordering it on Amazon or somewhere online. But I guess back in the early 90s, this worked. A lot of people for their offices bought supplies, and while they were there, they did the one-stop shop thing and picked up the goodies and things for the office break room. Got some LaCroix over here. That stuff is gross, but it seems like every office has that in it. But again, the prices are really not competitive at all with even, you know, places that might be right next door to an OfficeMax like Target or something. And the same goes for this stuff. This is like, you know, things that you would buy for your break room, first aid cabinet, you know, headache medication, and the prices are just awful. I think people have really changed the way they shop for office supplies, and that's really hurting the office supply store business model. And it's not just Amazon that's hurting them. They're also having to compete with a lot of other people that do direct business-to-business sales for office supplies, like regional delivery companies and stuff, and for the most part, they're still doing okay. I have to say, too, this store is one of the most empty stores in terms of customers go that I've been in a very long time. Another thing they had quite a bit of was mailing supplies and shipping supplies, but again, I know this is another thing that people really just order from Amazon or a lot of times directly from the companies that make these shipping materials. Even Walmart sells this stuff much cheaper. I know, like when I need to ship something and I need bubble wrap and packing peanuts, I just go to Walmart for it. I did find it interesting though that these are the actual edible packing peanuts. You can see there says it's made with potato and cornstarch. It's probably not a good idea to eat them because they're probably not made in a hygienic environment, but they are definitely biodegradable, so that's good. Here's the time clocks. I'm not sure where people buy things like time clocks outside of places like Office Depot and OfficeMax. I haven't had to punch a time clock since I was a teenager. Here's the teaching supplies section, which was surprisingly small to me, but there are teaching supply stores that are around, and I know also, you know, teachers are obviously looking to save money because they pay for a lot of this stuff out of pocket, so again, they're going to order it, you know, somewhere from like Amazon where they can get it as cheap as possible. And here's the pencil sharpeners. And that $50 pencil sharpener, that seems really expensive. They also sell computer accessories and computer software as well, and I was kind of surprised to find how small the software section now is. It kind of makes sense, but it's all pretty much tax software, antivirus stuff. I actually remember as a kid going to either Office Depot or OfficeMax with my dad, and they actually had a shareware game rack where you could get like cheap games, and I've actually bought a few shareware games when I was a kid from an office supply store, but there's nothing like that in here now. But yeah, just one whole aisle of Quicken, TurboTax, McAfee antivirus, some operating system stuff. Oh, and then Corel Draw as well. You can see with this wide panning shot here, just no customers. Mark and I were the only one in the store for a very long time. I have no idea how they're meeting operating costs. Here's the Texas Instruments graphing calculators, and my God, they are still $100. That's how much they cost when I was in high school in the late 90s. You can get apps that do the same stuff for free, but the schools demand that you purchase Texas Instruments calculators because that's what they know, and so Texas Instruments can charge a fortune for them. There's actually a really good video on this subject by Lazy Game Reviews, LGR. I'll put a link down in the description below. It is pretty interesting to see that whole racket and how it works. Also, something that I've observed is I commonly find Texas Instruments graphing calculators at thrift stores for like $10 to $20. So if you need one, it's definitely worth looking for a used one at thrift stores. A lot of the ways that businesses, well, do business has changed, and it seems like OfficeMax really hasn't kept up with that. They have a very large and I would also say expensive section dedicated just to landline telephones and landline telephone accessories, things like that. I was actually surprised to see this big of a section still here. Now, Radio Shack used to actually carry a lot of this stuff, and with all of those stores pretty much being gone, if you're having a hard time finding it, I guess office supply stores are a decent place to look. But now getting over to the expensive landline telephones, if you look at the tags on the shelves here, you can see they're kind of yellowed, like they've been there for a very long time. Like the prices haven't changed for a long time, and the technology hasn't changed for a long time, and it doesn't look like a lot of this product is moved for a long time either. Here's the thumb drives and SD cards, and these have gotten so much cheaper than when I was young. It's amazing how much memory space, storage space you can get for so little money now. And that's actually something that's kind of interesting. My wife actually used to work in office supply sales for a long time, and her manager explained to her one of the struggles they're facing is that, you know, way back in the day when you sold an office like a filing cabinet, you also sold them paper clips and binder clips and folders and dividers and all that stuff to go with it, the paper that the stuff was printed on. Hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of supplies, and now a lot of that stuff is just kept on a $20 thumb drive. So that's a struggle that the whole industry is facing as a whole, and it seems like it's really hitting the retail store side of it. I find it interesting that there's only 3 big names left in the office supply store business. There's Staples, and then OfficeMax and Office Depot, which really are more like one, even though they're running with 2 separate names. There's really only 2 companies in the national store business. And what was equally interesting to me was to find that back in 2015, Office Depot actually agreed to be purchased by Staples for $6.3 billion. That deal was actually shot down by the Federal Trade Commission because it would have created a monopoly. But $6.3 billion, and that was, just 5 years ago. Looking at these stores, and I've been in Staples stores as well and Office Depot stores recently, this doesn't look like a $6.3 billion business to me anymore. Office Depot has already announced that they're going to start closing some underperforming OfficeMax and Office Depot stores. And I also found it interesting to read that in the future, Office Depot only expects about 25% of their business to come from the retail store side of things. So they don't have a lot of confidence in this business model. Office Depot says they plan to focus more on business-to-business sales in the future and less on the direct-to-consumer retail side of things. And it sounds like that might be a good idea because it looks like businesses at this point are, either ordering things off the internet or getting things delivered to them through regional supply business-to-business companies. And it looks like just the regular average consumer is shopping for the items carried at this store at places like Walmart and Target for less money. Oh my gosh, a customer. Hooray! I think that's the first customer in the video. I think companies like OfficeMax / Office Depot and Staples are getting attacked from too many sides on the retail business for them to sustain things like this much longer. But anyways, I'd love to know what your thoughts are on OfficeMax and the office supply store business. Let me know down in the comments below. As always, thanks for watching. Want to see your name here? Head on over to patreon.com/Retail Archaeology to find out how you can help support the channel. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out my video on OfficeMax and the office supply store business. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and also make sure to follow at the social media links down there because that's the best way to keep up with what's going on with the channel.